Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of industry capture of both parties, but the Democratic Party certainly has gone all in on that of late, since as you mentioned, the Obama administration, and now we're even seeing the military-industrial complex pouring money into the Democratic Party. If you were to get into the Oval Office, how could you unravel this type of industry capture? I feel like you'd have to start a movement that would include not only you being elected, but many members of Congress would need to be elected as well, who share the same sentiment as you.
Well, I would say I have like a PhD in how to unravel agency capture because I've been suing these agencies for so many years. And when you do litigation, probably 20% of my losses, 80% were against polluters, 20% were against the agencies that are enabling polluters. So I've been involved in litigation, many, many cases with EPA, which is captured by oil, by coal, by pesticide, by big chemical. I've litigated, of course, against HHS and the pharmaceutical industry, which owns NIH, CDC, and FDA. I've litigated against the FDA, against the USDA, Department of Agriculture, because it's captured by Smithfield and Tyson and Boat Pilgrim and Cargill and Monsanto. And then the CIA is also captured by the military-industrial complex, and all of these agencies, those umbilical cords to industry have to be broken. They're basically functioning as wholly owned subsidiaries for the industries they're supposed to regulate. And most politicians get in there hoping to drain the swamp, but they're confronted by these huge bureaucracies, and the bureaucracies have the power and the capacity to commit civil disobediences against their leader. I come in I'm not intimidated by the agencies. I know how they work and I know how to change them. And most of those changes you do not need Congress for. President Trump could have done it, had the power to do it himself, and President Biden has the power to do it himself. And I'll give you an example. With a stroke of the pen, you can change back the rule that allows pharmaceutical advertisers to do direct to consumer ads on television. That's one of the big problems. That's why one of the reasons we have this entrenched agency capture, not only of Congress, because they control the airwaves, they control the evening news. 75% of the revenues for those evening news shows are, Anderson Cooper is coming from Pfizer, another pharmaceutical company. So, and those companies are dictating content on those shows, and they dictate the official narratives. And they're able then to exercise huge control over Congress. So Congress is terrified of them. But with a stroke of the pen, you can say this is not good for the health of our country, which it isn't. We spend 3 times more than any other country for pharmaceutical drugs because of all this advertising. And we have the worst health outcomes of any, I think we're 79th in the world in health outcomes. Another thing that I can do is I can open up all the databases. Right now, all the databases that you can actually check the efficacy and the safety of vaccines, like the vaccine safety database, it's all the vaccine records and the medical claims for 10 million Americans from the top 10 HMOs. Well, you can look in there, and overnight you can say, oh, this vaccine is associated with diabetes, this one's associated with peanut allergies, this one's associated with ASD, neurological tics, or whatever. That database, CDC keeps it in a lockbox, like Fort Knox, and makes sure no scientist is allowed in there. Well, I'll open up that database on day one. And, I'll also, I'll bring all the medical journals, the New England Journal of Medicine, the Lancet, JAMA, into the Justice Department as soon as I appoint an AG. And I'll say to them, you guys are part of a racketeering syndicate. You're collaborating with these pharmaceutical industry to lie to the American public about the efficacy and safety of these products, and you're causing enormous harm. And we are going to sue you both civilly for damages, and we're going to sue you criminally unless you come up with a plan right now as to how you're going to stop doing that. So I have 100 things that I'm going to do immediately to unravel the agency capture in these agencies. I'm going to, the USDA was created to help the small farmer. They're doing the opposite. Their job now is to make sure that large corporate firms crush the small American farmer. And we can't have democracy for long if the American small independent freeholds have completely lost control of the landscapes. I'll give you an example. Smithfield Foods, the company I litigated against a lot, it basically invented a kind of factory farming for pork. And this was in the early 80s. They built a huge slaughterhouse in North Carolina. They slaughtered 30,000 pigs a day. And they dropped the price of hogs to 32 cents a pound from 60 cents a pound, or 2 cents a pound from 60 cents a pound. They put out of business 28,000 independent hog farmers, and they got control. There's now 1,800 factories in the state, and 80% of those are controlled by this one company. Well, they put out of business all the independent farmers. They now control the landscapes of North Carolina and the food production in this country. And then they sold themselves to the Chinese. So now you have a Chinese company that controls the landscapes and food production, not only in North Carolina, but Iowa and all over the country. And that's not good for our country. And USDA bets that is a colonial model. You have a foreign country that is coming in and stealing our natural resources, polluting the landscapes, poisoning our rivers, 14 rivers poisoned in North Carolina. And and they control food production in this country. And USDA is abetting those kind of policies. We shouldn't be doing that. And I will end that overnight.